just murdered another dog outside, so I had to stop that from happening. And also, I almost shot a dog just now. So you guys go on. Yeah, like literally hand on the gun, and this little 12-year-old girl was like, "Don't shoot my dog!"
Holy fuck!
No, she
All
didn't
the reason
have
to
my hand on the
actually
gun.
shoot said dog.
That
Ethan's
would have been
applying for the
great.
ATF.
Fuck you, kid.
All right. Oh, on that wonderful note, Vinny, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, man. I'm glad to be here. I know we talked about it a while ago. Through the powers that may be, not 100% sure how we actually came to talking. So
No, I don't know how this happened either. I'm just excited that it did.
You're welcome.
Guys, welcome to Clone and Correct podcast. With us this week, we have Vinny. Wonderful gentleman, owns Monsoon Tactical.
Yep.
Monsoon Tactical. Fuck, if you don't know who they are, you need to get your head out of your ass. I found out about you guys from the Chunk Port when that started out. And
yeah, man.
That
That's what's brought us a lot of attention lately.
it's really, really
So.
cool. Cool thing they do. Porting and just a whole bunch of shit to gun customization, and I fucking love all of it. Everyone else is muted.
Because we don't,
I mean,
we
if
don't
you're-
want to talk over everyone.
You can't be into guns and not be into customization.
Trying to have good manners by muting ourselves, so all that good shit.
So I guess we could jump right in. What brought the Chunk Port to be? Because for a while there, I carried a Glock 19C for a bit, and I got a lot of shit from a lot of people for carrying a ported gun. And all of a sudden, it's back.
The one thing I've noticed in the gun industry, man, is shit always comes back around full circle. So it's like porting and compensators get real hot. I mean, I would probably say compensators were kind of a hot thing back in like 2016, 2015 with all your fucking, rolling specials and stuff like that on Glocks. Staccatos and 2011s weren't really a thing as far as the amount of them that are out there now.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, like, they were still a thing. I mean, STI and the 2011 platform has been around since, the 90s or so. Maybe even longer than that. The history on the company STI, I have it, but it's a little bit of a hazy information for me as far as keeping track, because it was like two separate guys that made that company up, and one branched off, and that, the one that was part of that is Infinity Firearms, if you didn't know that.
Really?
If you're familiar with Infinity, he used to be one of the owners of STI, and then obviously now Staccato is its own thing now. I don't think any of them have anything to do with it anymore, other than selling the rights to the gun. But, that stuff kind of comes around full circle, and I think people are starting to realize, like, hey, when it comes to ports and comps and stuff, we're actually, like, not going to get killed in the streets carrying those things.
No.
So, our shop in particular, I have no military or law enforcement background. I'm just a average dude who likes to shoot a lot and was into the competition scene and really loved the 2011 platform. So, we're all about doing weird, obscure shit and hot rodding guns and making them run faster and flatter. So the process of the Chunk Port kind of came to be because I had a DVCP. The gun the XC is what replaced that gun from the Staccato lineup. And it's a, Island Comp 2011 that, and then trying to get that style of porting and or compensation onto a smaller gun that didn't cost $4,300,
Yeah.
So
I think the Island comps are so fucking sexy. I don't know what it is about it, but I remember opening up a Recoil magazine. I mean, not to age myself, but I think I was in like high school, right? And I saw this Costa Ludus EVCP. that they'd made, and fucking about lost my mind. I thought it was the coolest shit ever. So yeah, I think in the trunk port, that's the first thing I thought of when I saw it. I was like, damn, that looks like with the giant opening up in the top of him. Like that looks a lot like an XC, but it's not a fucking huge gun, and it's not a $4,300 gun either. And
I mean that it a lot of design aspects kind of was derived from the DVCP or the cost to carry comp or the XC, whichever one you want to talk about. The Omni was the first version of it, and then the cost to carry comp followed, and the DVCP, and now we have the XC. The original design of what we were pumping out for a while was derived from those guns, and now that we have the Genghis comp, it kind of is a new refined product. If you guys haven't seen that yet,
I have. I wanted. The second you released the pictures of it, it was all in the chat. I wanted to talk about it. So, from my understanding, a trunk port, what it is it's a window cut through the slide down into the barrel.
Yeah.
Of the gun, and then the actual barrel is backboard just a little bit to the end of the trunk, to the end of the port to stop. Yep. Is that to stop spalling or bullet tumbling or something like that?
It was to mainly to stop the spalling, right?
Gotcha.
That's the thing with ports, right? No matter, and depending on who you talk to, it's kind of, in my opinion, a non-negotiable byproduct of porting when it comes to your more traditional. We have different porting packages like our Lucky Sevens. Obviously, we can't backbore something like that because it's across the whole damn barrel. But obviously, those ports are significantly smaller, and there's 7 of them. So your Glock 17Cs are actually, like you said, you carried one. Those are actually can cause some severe spalling because of those style of ports. They're oblong and they're running vertical, the bore. So it'll literally like shave off 2 nice little spears of jacket coming out of there. And if you're not careful, you'll catch some of it.
I shot just practicing from retention, shooting like from retention and shit with it. It sucks. It's not something fun. The only good thing from it was it got me really good at wearing eye pro when I'm shooting. I had like a really nasty habit of not doing it. And you bring that bitch up and you shoot it from retention, you stop right. If you don't have eye pro on, you like it's just like a flip of a switch. You're like, oh shit.
It's definite. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying he has a pretty bad habit of not wearing protection.
No PPE.
No, he when he gets tired of shooting his rifle without ears, he'll
no. I won't tell that story. I can't believe I said that. What they're bringing. Hey, Ping, you. Sorry about that. No, what he's mentioning is I had a really shitty pair of ear pro, and I'd go shooting right, and I'm shooting my AR, which is a loud bitch, and the ear pro would get uncomfortable, but I wanted to keep shooting, so instead of shooting my AR, I just shoot pistol without ear pro because they're less loud. I was young and very, very dumb, and I've grown out of that.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple ways to think about it, man. You only get one set of eyes and one set of ears.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I got real sensitive ears myself, so I get real pissed off when I feel like I spent 2 hours in a pool. So, my eyes are still pretty good. But, yeah, man, I mean, there's a couple things. We talk to people all the time because they're kind of on the fence on having ports on a carry gun or whatever the case may be. And that's always the first thing is, couple myths busted right away is like, one, it's going to, detract from night vision shooting, whatever the fuck that myth is, right? So that's one, not really true. First of all, just my opinion. Again, a lot of this is opinion. If you're carrying a pistol, and you know you're going to be out in the dark, you should probably have a light attached to it.
Yeah.
So that kind of defuses the whole porting is going to cause you to go blind thing. On top of that, it really doesn't anyway. But I mean, definitely shooting from retention is a thing. With comps or ports, you're going to catch some kind of gas. It's directing, most ports are directing gas at the 12 o'clock position to, reduce muzzle rise. So, I mean, there's obviously a couple of precautions you could take if it's, real life scenario. It's like trying to cant the gun away from you when you do it.
Yeah.
And then the reality is you're either going to catch some shit or you're going to be dead. So which one would you pick?
Yeah, I think self-defense there, you got a lot more shit on your plate than some fucking gas to the nose.
Right. So, I mean, I personally don't really practice retention shooting myself. I understand the concept. I've done it before. If I have to, I know I can do it, but it's not something I'm going to subject myself to a lot of if I don't have to. And if I do, I understand that if I just rotate the pistol 45 degrees away from me, I'm probably not going to catch much of that shit anyway.
That's what I ended up doing with that Glock.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, so the original chunk port started out not backboard. There's still quite a few of those running around.
Cool.
And then we started backboring them, and then changed the barrel profile. And the one thing that we started to worry about was the fact that backboring these pistols and doing this modification does shorten overall barrel length, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of went back to the drawing board and came up with the Genghis comp, made a very smaller, more low profile barrel setup to minimize that. And that's pretty much what, we dropped mid-April. I think it was the 15th. Yeah. And honestly, I mean, there's probably no more evolutions to be made off of that. I don't really think there's anything more that can be done. In my opinion, it's already pretty a lot of innovation there already, just with what we did.
Yeah. What makes it so special is it's very centered around the staccatos. Like, it's not something that you could do with a Glock or your M&P or your CZ. Or I might be misspeaking, but the staccatos have an incredibly thick bull barrel.
Yeah, it was. It's 100% centered around the staccato for that reason.
And it's so. Chunk port had it was essentially a slot in the top of the barrel, and the bore was backboard. Genghis comp is smaller cut straight down through the top of the window. It doesn't have as much cut off the sides, correct? And then it has an actual blast chamber milled in it.
Yeah, so I mean, we took. What's that?
If I was reading the post correctly, it has a blast chamber down on it. Yeah,
so I mean, it's literally a we took the barrel and the thickness that was provided with it, and then obviously took into a lot of consideration how much we could get away with as far as machining that barrel, because the reality is we're milling a square pocket nonetheless into a circular object. So there are some parts of that barrel where the squares cut out into a circle where it gets a little thin, so we had to be able to calculate all that stuff. And we ended up machining a actual expansion chamber into the barrel, and put it through a very heavy round count testing schedule to make sure everything was going to be kosher, and here we are. So now, what's that?
I was going to say, by adding the blast chamber or the down in the expansion chamber down, it goes down beneath the bore. How much does that impact the performance of it? Because that's a very large difference between the Genghis comp and the chunk port.
What do you mean by performance? You mean like how much better does it work?
Yeah, like how much better it works.
So I mean, the one thing with the original chunk port and its evolution. was after the back boring and the change in barrel depth cut that we did. But again, that port was so large that we were just not happy with the amount of rifling that we were removing to get, to stop the spalling from happening. So in my opinion, I love ported guns. I think a compensated pistol works better than ports. I'm just more accustomed to compensators myself through competition and stuff like that. It's a massive let off at the front of the barrel, and that's kind of one of those things where when it comes to shooting a gun flat, I mean, anybody can shoot a gun flat with or without ports if you have the proper fundamentals and grip and all that shit. So all these extra modifications that we're doing are to aid the shooter and to, really step up the performance of that shooter and aid them in that. So it's like taking that into consideration, building the flat sidewalls and the bottom flat chamber into that barrel really just allows that gas to, like I said, like the name entails, the gas expands and then crawls up the sides of the barrel and really forces that gas down. Like it compacts it and redirects it versus, the original, it was just gases were passing that hole and venting through it, right? So the expansion chamber is exactly what it's called for that reason, and that's how all other compensators are built. So the performance enhancement from the Genghis versus the original chunk port is extremely, it's definitely achieved what we wanted it to. And the thing to think about is it's a smaller overall size as well compared to what's the original. So, to be able to shrink the modification down and still have it perform better, is obviously, speaks for itself.
Have you gotten numbers on FPS loss? The Genghis comp?
That's subjective.
Gotcha.
We did do it on retrofitted barrels. I can only assume at the moment that it's about the same as the original chunk port, but I don't want to assume anything. But to be completely honest with you, man, I mean, the original design, we were only losing 24 feet per second,
which is a whole lot on a 9mm.
No, I mean that's always probably outside of people that understand ports and like them. That's normally the number one question. What's the feet per second lost? And we have all that data for the most part. We haven't necessarily gathered all the data we wanted on the new Genghis comp. As far as that is concerned, we were too busy just fucking pumping rounds through it to make sure it would last first. Right. But we're kind of just, again, educated guess that it's about the same, because it's if anything, it's a little bit less because of the opening is actually smaller now.
Yeah, and for people at home, they're like, oh, my fucking 24 feet per second. If you're shooting shit ammo, there's probably a 24 feet per second deviation in between one round and another round in the box. So don't get your panic.
Yeah.
That was the question I was going to ask, or one of the questions I was going to ask, is what you were looking at FPS loss with it. Because I've been on the fence about getting it done with my gun. Either the new Genghis comp or the chunk port. I've been looking at them both and thinking about getting it done with mine. And that was always my number one question: is what am I looking at FPS loss wise? And granted, I'm shooting 124 grain plus P HSTs out of mine. For defensive.
Yeah, so I mean, when you're talking about defensive loads, one or two things are going to definitely happen compared to our testing sample. Plus P's are obviously, at an average, if I had to guess, they're moving around 1,200 or more feet per second to make it plus P, right?
Yeah.
So, if knowing what we know, at least on the original chunk port, depending on which gun you're shooting it out of, you're going to drop down into the high 11s, right, on a 1,200 feet per second round. So, I mean, is 24 feet per second a deal breaker for some people? I don't know. I don't think ballistically it's going to change anything when it comes to a self-defense situation.
I don't think it changes much until you start dropping into like Glock 43 size guns, where you're
Right,
right
I mean,
on that bleeding edge of expansion, anyways.
Right. Yep, and that's
Um,
a concern, and that's why we, on average, we were seeing about a 24 to 20. Again, depending on the gun, the 24 to 29 feet per second loss on those Staccato original chunk ports. Now that we know that these guns can pretty much handle the workload, we're going to go gather more, ballistic data with it, just so we have that information prevalent for people. But, I mean, again, just kind of knowing what we knew across the board on all the other chunk ports on the Staccato lineup with a bigger port even, very, very nominal loss in velocity. And, kind of like what someone said earlier, you can have that deviation just from shitty ammo itself. But where it really matters is your carry load and making sure that's set up and ready to roll the way it's supposed to.
Well, and then my second question, because again, I'm not very educated on it. The XC. When I was in the market for a Staccato, that was one of the guns I looked at. Was the XC cool? Comp. It's comped. It's island barrel or island front sight, all that good stuff. What ended up getting me away from it is I got the chance to test fire an XC before I actually bought. And I found that due to its 8-pound recoil spring, I could cause it to malfunction just by thumb pressure on the slide. Which is what led me down the road to getting a P instead of the XC. With your guys' porting, are we looking at stock recoil spring weights, or are we dropping them? What are we doing there?
Yeah, so when we first started doing I kind of moving forward, like just so you know, the Genghis comp is what replaced the chunk port. So that product in itself, we aren't really doing or offering anymore. As far as that old profile, we may revisit as far as the slide profile is concerned, if possible, for some of those people that really want that look. Because that was one of the reasons also that we kind of developed the Genghis comp was it was split, at least from what we could tell, of people that really liked the design of it, and then others that just did not like the way it looked at all. And we understand that. So the Genghis comp is replacing the chunk port for the 2011s only, just because it's the highest evolution as far as innovation for that style of port, quote unquote, that we're doing now. So for the Genghis comp, no, it's factory recoil assembly, all that stuff. That being said, I'm a big firm believer of tuning a pistol as far as the balance when it comes to modification. It runs great, so if you have a Staccato P and you're running the normal stock spring in it feels great, but it feels really good with like a 10-pound or even lighter. But again, your concern is definitely something that people need to keep into consideration if you got a grip like that. A lot of people were taking XCs and dropping 10-pound springs in them to alleviate that issue. But with that 10-pound spring, it added a little bit of extra snap into the gun. So it's kind of like one of those, you either got to learn how to shoot it the way it is and kind of drop your thumb a little bit, or you upgrade the spring and kind of change the dynamic of the pistol. But to answer your question in short, or long story short, yes, factory springs are good to go. It'll shoot lights out that way, and you can just move on with that factory weight spring.
And as someone who saw a lot of people struggle with their fucking rolling special Glocks, getting those bitches to run, like change up recoil springs and shit, that's really, really impressive that you guys can get a very effective, we're going to porting into a gun to help manage recoil, keep it flat and fast, and you don't need to fuck with the recoil spring. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, the kind of going back into the whole, like, even a stock Glock, right? The reason that, your Glocks, your Walthers, your Smith & Wessons, any of your polymer pistols that are used as a duty weapon, those guns are severely oversprung from the factory, and that's why they're so reliable, right? Other than the fact that the guns are plastic and the tolerances on them are super loose, and that you overspring the shit out of that thing, it's going to eat everything you put in it, right? So, that being said, you start throwing compensators and all this shit onto an oversprung gun, it's not going to run right. So, that's kind of the difference between a $500 duty pistol or carry gun. There's nothing wrong with Glocks. I was a big Glock guy for a long time. I still like Glocks. But, a lot of these people nowadays, granted, I will say that the price of admission is a lot cheaper now compared to what it was, even 3-4 years ago, right? When I first got my DVCP, the price of admission for 2011 isn't necessarily out of most people's reach. At first, $2,500 for an optic ready 2011 sounds like a lot.
No.
But there's definitely a lot of dudes running around there with Gucci Glocks that cost that much, if not more, right? So the price of admission is definitely more feasible for people. And kind of in the same token, the people at Staccato and people building those pistols and the engineers are springing those guns accordingly. So, that's why they're so buttery and they shoot so well just alone on their own, right? So yeah, I mean, it was nice to be able to. We did downspring the C2s with the original chunk port, and we're glad that we're able to get away from that now.
Yeah, mentioning the P and the C2, do you have a preference between the two of them?
It depends on what I want to do with it, right? I mean, I get that question so much that I wish I should probably do a video about it myself. No, you're good, guys. You're good. I mean, it's a valid question. And it just depends. It's honestly a personal preference thing at that point. I will say that if you're getting a 2011 for the first time and you don't already have one, right, I would go with the P first.
Yeah.
And I would go with the steel frame P first.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so that boils down to also what's your plans for this pistol? Are you going to carry it? Okay, well, if you're going to carry it, understand that she's a hefty bitch. So your gear is going to have to be able to, handle that. It's definitely a heavy gun to carry compared to what a lot of us were probably used to 2-3 years ago, however long it was before we got ours, right? That being said, the C2 can definitely double as a carry and range gun, but also understanding that aluminum frame is definitely going to wear in a lot quicker than that steel one is.
Yeah, I went from a Glock 17 with an X300 to a steel frame P with the X300.
Yeah,
and
so I mean, it's definitely heavier.
It's heavier. Best advice: just wear a good belt and get a decent holster.
Right. Yep. That's what I said. Definitely. If you're rolling around with a Walmart belt and a iffy Kydex holster, you're gonna have to definitely pay some extra money for some good shit and to facilitate carrying that gun comfortably. Right. I own a P, like a 2019 P, the gun they should still be making but don't make anymore for some reason. And like I said, man, carrying that thing, it can be a little bit cumbersome sometimes if I'm not ready for it. I carry primarily in a tier 1 concealed access elite, so I mean it really distributes that weight for me.
Yeah.
But honestly, lately I've been carrying either my Walther PPK or my Staccato C.
I really like that PPK. That's a really fucking cool thing that you did there.
Yeah, we like doing weird shit, man. That's one of our hangers for our hats. We like to do some unseen shit. So, when I was like, I want to put a red dot on a Walther PPK, and I think it can be done. So, we did it, and it's honestly been one of my favorite guns to mess around and play with. I just got some vintage Packmeyer grips for it that I had to scour the internet to get, and I love it, dude. It's a cool ass gun. I've always loved the PPK.
Speaking of doing cool shit, you guys did and Walter, you did a PDP for Modern Samurai Project, didn't you?
Yeah, we did a 4.5 inch for Scott, and we're actually working on a 5-inch for him right now.
Fucking hell, that dude is so fast. It's putting a ported gun in his hand. I can only imagine how much quicker he's gotten.
Yeah, man, Scott's good people. I mean, he's my lost biological father, so to speak. I say that all the time, and he laughs. But because we're both like Euro Asian trash, whatever he calls it. So yeah, man, Scott's a good dude. Kind of same thing, just doing our thing. We linked up with him somehow. I can't honestly remember how we linked up with him. And we built him a 4.5 inch that he's been really running and enjoying. Yeah, he sent us a 5-inch. We're almost finished building that out because we're meeting up with him in about 2 weeks to go shoot with him and deliver that pistol to him. So
that'll be
definitely done some cool shit in the industry with some people.
I did a story and I asked for questions, and I'm gonna be honest with you, most of them were absolute shit. It had to do with like certain bodily fluids that I'm not gonna ask you about. But the best one that I got was, is there anything in the industry that consistently pisses you off? Like, if it went away, you'd be really, really happy.
Honestly, man, it's the fact that we're I try to be. I think we do a good job at it over at Monsoon. Like I said, we're a team there. There's 2 dudes that don't see the light of day when it comes to social media, and that's okay. They don't want to be a part of that.
Yeah,
I'm technically, I would say, the persona in the face of Monsoon, and then we have my business partner Zach that runs Monsoon Bactical.
Like
that is starting to get more involved as far as the content we create, and we're very playful but serious, right? I think that's kind of one of the things that I would love to see more of. Like, I know everybody's a weird motherfucker in some way. They're just afraid to show it when it comes to the gun scene.
Yeah.
Right? We're all about being who we are, being playful about it, but also understanding this is a serious matter and being professional there. But kind of basically where I'm trying to spin off of that is a lot of dudes try to put on this persona that's not them. You get a lot of fake people, and then the industry just ends up eating itself. Like, that's that one thing. Like, our industry, they'll eat each other alive if shit just isn't right, and it's super toxic, and I just try to stay out of it. To be completely honest with you, but that's honestly though, that's just the world in general too. So I feel like it's more of a pissing match at that point. Sometimes I could definitely just be okay with that and just let companies do their thing and be happy to do it. I guess I don't know.
I think
if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's like everyone has that goofiness, that weirdness to them, and it's just letting it show. I think a lot of the people that starting to see it come back around. Jeff from USA Gunk Bunker did the same thing. He started out just trying to do what he thought people would think was cool, and he transitioned to doing what he thought was cool, and it's been awesome for him.
Well, there's something about originality that really draws people to your content, right? So there's things that we like to do that we think are good ideas, and sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. And then there's just people that just kind of follow the same recipe, and then they just end up being another, gun page or whatever the case may be, right? And everybody has different tastes for sure. I find myself really enjoying like seeing all these retro rifles and shit coming back to life again. Kind of going back to that whole. Comp guns were a thing, and now they weren't. Now they are again. And it's just like, man, all these retro rifles are starting to become a thing out of nowhere. Like, I honestly don't remember there being a insurgence of retro rifles up until recently.
It's because no one could get Unity risers, so they're just doing carry handles with aim points.
Well, yeah. So I mean, that's the thing. Like
carry handle gang.
Yeah, carry handle gang. I got 2 of them, man. But that being said, it's however you want to perceive it, man. Like I was, I airsofted a lot, and that was the setup I ran. Was a carry handled optic kind of thing. And I loved it, and it's just like, yeah, you're right. It's like, damn, dude, I can buy, at least maybe now, I don't know, but like, yeah, I could go get a fucking $80 carry handle upper, or just a carry handle and a flat top receiver, and have a better point of view, heads up display kind of optic instead of that $500 Unity fast mount or whatever that I can't get. So I've been enjoying it. I got a 14.5 Colt that I kind of got all decked out, and then I got my my 10.5. Just I don't even know what you would call it. It doesn't even know what it is really.
Mach 18
on his gun.
Kind of. It's got a quad rail on it. It's got a carry handle upper. It's got a Trijicon SRS on a rail. It's got a whatever that Surefire vertical grip light thing was back in like the Magpul days. I got one of those on it.
That's fantastic.
Not gonna lie, that sounds like it just straight fucks.
Oh, it does. It's on our happy lower too. So it's a fun gun. It's definitely something cool. We're gonna take it to our next Ohio Range Day, and we're gonna let people play with it. It's a cool gun.
Does it have a bean sling on it?
A what?
A bean sling?
I don't know what that is.
It's a sling with beans on it.
Yeah.
No, I honestly. What's that?
What you're saying is I need to bring my ass home and go to Ohio Range Day so I can play with this thing.
Yeah, we're gonna put a crinkled up cardboard sign on it, kind of like a hobo would have, or a panhandler, and it's gonna say "Feed me, spank me, and play with me." So and people can just come up and feed it, slap the bolt home, and shoot it. So it's a cool gun, man. The there's some kit on it that's just, again, I like that old obscure shit. I got a PPK with a retro Leupold Delta point that you can't get in some Packmeyer grips. So then I got that other 10.5 AR with some shit that you can't find anymore. Like that Trijicon SRS is just unobtainium, and it still works. So it's a cool piece of kit to have.
No, I feel you on the old obscure retro shit that you don't see a lot anymore. My new main squeeze so far this year is I've been running an M16A2 clone that's running a aim-point gooseneck mount with an old school M68 out on the gooseneck, and that's been what I've been playing with the most this year when it comes to ARs.
Yeah, and I mean the thing with that too, man, is just like kind of putting a little bit of that modern performance in it, because I mean I got a Geisley, flat face trigger in my Colt, and it's now I can run it just as fast. It just doesn't have all the stupid modern Gucci shit on it. That being said, it's not a full Colt. It's a Bushmaster lower with a full Colt upper, but it's still the way that this gun would have been built back in whenever it was made.
Back when they were cranking them out of the old onion milling in Hartford.
Yeah. So I mean, this gun, other than it's got a Car 15 style stock on it, triangle handguard, an old Surefire Scout attached to the barrel, name point on a rail, and a Geisley trigger. So it's like it's got everything it does and doesn't need as far as like your quote unquote combat rifle, right? But it's super light and fun to shoot, and that's the main thing. I'm not a big rifle guy, so that's why I like having the weird shit.
I meant to ask you, what made you take the jump? 2011s. What was it that the jump to the 2011? Because you said the first one was the DVCP. You said.
Yeah. Yep.
Back then, the price of admission was it was really big. Now you can get into a Staccato P with optics ready for $2,500, which sounds expensive, but let's be real. It's in the way the world's going. There's a.
Well, like I said, man, I get it. I understand there's definitely two different thought processes on it, but there's definitely guys with Glocks that have that much money poured into them, right?
Yeah.
You go buy a Glock from Agency or Salient, and you're going to spend $2,000 or so to get that pistol, right? Zev, yeah. I mean, an OZ9 is. I mean, I think they're up almost close to $2,000, aren't they?
You can find out right
they're
now.
about there with by the time you throw a light and optic on it, yeah.
You're touching 22 for an OZ that's fully kitted.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, man, I like the OZ9 platform a lot. Have you just kind of a weird side question? Have any of you guys seen that DC9 from DC Precision?
Yes.
Yeah, I've heard of it, and I think that's gonna be cool.
Yeah, that thing's pretty dope, man.
2011.
Yeah, it's definitely a small. He's a good dude, man, and he makes cool shit. But I just kind of just asking because that's one of those he did a lot of OZ guns. I think the OZ9 platform's definitely worth that money. Because I think it is just shy of $2,000 for the gun.
A 1900
for what you're getting, in my opinion, versus a regular Glock, they definitely shoot better because of the way that they built that pistol. Far from needing some grip work, I think the pistol out of the box is ready to roll. So, kind of like to answer your question. I've always been around high-end 2011s before Staccatos were, available as they were, right? Like I said, I kind of had a mentor, older gentleman that I still look up to today, old Vietnam vet dude that was into the competition scene that got me into it, and he had, all these hand-built custom 2011s and stuff, and he would let me shoot them, and it was just never, again, obtaining one at that time was just not in my cards, right? Like just spending $4,000 or $5,000 or $6,000 on a gun like that wasn't something that I could do, right? So then I've been around them more than enough to understand them, respect them, and shoot them, in all different capacities. I've had the pleasure of touching Infinity 2011s that were worth more than most people's vehicles.
Yeah.
Right? Well, no, maybe not nowadays, but I mean, our good friend Andrew Hyder, out of Ohio, he's a sponsored shooter from Infinity. And, he his open pistols can range from like $17,000 and up. Right? So but you're starting to talk about super high-end, custom, everything hand-fitted, everything down to the nuts and screws or anodized the color that you want. Like it's complete custom to you pistol, right?
Yeah.
So, basically it's just financially I couldn't afford to get one. And right when STI was still STI, I had then got the opportunity to get into the gun industry through Cutter Machine Works, that hired me and to run their shop, and also I was still doing my frame stuff through them, and I had the opportunity to kind of get a hold of the DVCP and work the debt off for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, he became a 2011 dealer and got a whole bunch of them in. One of them was a DVCP. I said, hey, let's work out a deal. I can't afford to buy this right away, but, let's take a little bit out of my check every week or whatever the case may be, right? And got a hold of that one. And then
Is that pre-Gen 2 mags?
No, I think they started coming with the Gen 2s then.
Gotcha.
I don't, because all the mags I have are Gen 2, and I don't think they were Gen 1s. So I never really ever had any issues with my DVCP. It's probably one of my favorite, well, it is my favorite handgun. Since it's kind of a unicorn, I don't shoot it as much. I still shoot it, but it's kind of one of those, like, at this point, with all the other 2011s I have, there's no reason for me to really just run the brakes off of that gun, especially since I can't get another one anymore. I don't really plan on selling it right now either. So, really been enjoying my P with the Genghis comp more lately. But I mean, now I'm up to 4 staccatos or 4 2011s. So,
has anyone ever sent in an XL?
Yeah, we've done
chunk port or a Genghis.
Yeah,
fucking cool.
Yeah, we have one in there right now getting the Genghis comp, and we're super stoked to see how that one comes out. We know it'll work. We did a Lucky Sevens on an XL, and that thing is just dummy flat. So the Genghis comp on the XL is gonna just be lights out. It's gonna be sweet.
For people that don't know, the P right now ships with a 4.4 inch barrel. The XL ships with a 5.2. It has a lighter trigger.
5.4.
Oh, 5.4. My bad. Holy shit.
Yeah,
that's a big ass.
Yeah, that bitch is long.
5.4 and like a 2-pound trigger.
Yeah,
Long
the XL's a cool gun, man. I mean, I think they're $3,200.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, is that all? And I actually get that question asked a lot too. It's just like, XL or XC. It's almost infinitely like XC or P with a chunk port back then, or a Genghis comp, and it's just like the whole idea was to make the P's and the C2s be able to perform very similar, but it's going to be very hard to make. Now, I will say that it's close, right? Given what we have, it's very, very close as far as the impulse is concerned. But those XCs are just fitted different. The Island barrel and comp is just a different design. There's less reciprocating mass. Like, the XC is the pinnacle of their lineup. And if you can afford it, I would definitely buy one. And again, understanding what you plan on using it for, right? So that's kind of in a nutshell, my answer is if you can afford an XC, get it. If you can't, then get a P and let's do it up.
The only person I've heard of actually carrying an XC would be Alex from A&R Design. He has a background carrying steel guns and heavier bitches, so it wouldn't be that bad of a jump for him, I don't imagine.
Carrying.
I have a buddy that's an enforcement officer that actually carries an XC on duty. As crazy as that sounds.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of there's a couple of thought processes on that too, man. It's just like the reality is like, okay, do you want to carry that gun? Because if you do use it, you might not get that fucker back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? So it's like
that one goes missing in the evidence locker.
Yeah, no shit. I mean, but even then, like, even if that's not the case, like, there's a good possibility you're not going to get it back anyway.
Yeah.
So, are you okay with carrying that? I mean, I'm not going to lie. I've had my bougie days where I wake up all ready to fuck shit up, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna carry the DVCP today and strap that fucker on and go.
So his thinking is kind of along the same as mine. Because my daily carry for the most part is a Nighthawk GRP Recon,
yeah,
and my thing is if I use it, fine, so be it. My life is worth more than the $3,500 I spent on that pistol.
right. No, absolutely.
If I come out on the other side alive, if I don't ever see the pistol again, eventually I'll save up and get another one. It's one of those things. I came out alive, right? So at the end,
there's definitely merit in that decision, and that's good on you for being like, I wanna assume risk as far as protecting myself, my loved ones, and also assuming the lifestyle to carry that type of pistol, that it's not a big deal if I lose it, right? But it's kind of one of those, for me, the conversation I'm kind of talking about is the people that are like, well, I just don't know if I want to carry it. I don't feel like I want to carry it because it's so much money. I was like, well, then don't carry it. Right?
Yeah.
Like, why are you having the conversation? But like you said, with that handgun, your capabilities are elevated even further than the a 43X, right? And I'm with you. Like, my life is definitely worth more than one of the 4 pistols that I carry. Those can be replaced.
Yeah.
No questions asked. Right? It's just money. We make more.
You don't get buried with it.
Right. Yeah. So it's just like my performance level and skill set with that pistol is definitely worth its weight in gold, no matter how much it's going to cost to replace it if something were to go fucking sideways. So,
I think everyone should carry a gun that gives them the most ability that they can physically carry.
Yeah, and I mean I say this, and I hope it doesn't offend anybody, right? But I say it all the time. Like, I hope none of, because a lot of you guys have staccatos in here, right?
Yeah, I think 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
Yeah.
How many of you dickheads got a Ranger band or duct tape around your grip safety?
Hi, that's me. I got fucking. I got hockey. I got hockey tape up my shit, dude.
I refuse.
Yeah, so I mean, just, you do whatever you want to do, man. It's your life. Understand what that actual grip safety does for you. Just kind of getting into the technical shit with it, right? That grip safety is your drop safety. It has nothing to do with the overall manual of arms operations. If you drop that gun with that grip safety pin, there's a possibility it's going to go off.
Oh.
So just keep that in mind, right? Or just don't drop your pistol.
just don't fucking drop it.
I'm going to be really honest with you. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I mean,
quietly removes hockey tape.
I'm going to do that now.
So it does act as your drop safety, but the other thing I kind of use it as, and I use it, it's kind of a crutch, I guess you could say. I use it like a striker control device on a Glock. Yeah. So when I go to reholster appendix, I just move my thumb to the back of the hammer and to where I'm not engaging that grip safety. And I know when I reholster, even if like my thumb safety were to fail and something gets caught in my holster, as long as I don't have that grip safety depressed, that gun's not going to go off.
Breaking news, guys.
Yeah, and I wouldn't call that a crutch, man. That's what it's designed there. It's your last line of defense when it comes to the safety of that gun, because the overall reality is everybody in the gun industry is trying to chase that 1911 trigger pull. Well, the only way to do that is to make it a single action only gun with a straight pulled back trigger bow system with the sear and a disconnector. But there's no drop safety plungers and shit on those pistols, on those Series 70s guns. Yeah. They didn't start putting stuff like that until Series 80s, and those Series 80 guns just aren't the same. So that beaver tail safety is physically stopping the trigger from engaging the sear no matter what, right? So it's not 100% not a crutch. It's definitely there to do that. And if you're taking the precaution to be like, okay, when I reholster this stuff and putting this pistol right back down by my junk on a single action, even if it is a 4-pound trigger,
It's not.
That trigger is still not the same as a 4-pound Glock trigger, right? It doesn't take much for that gun to go off. So
No,
you using that.
It's not even close. And then, my staccato is right around 4.5 pounds.
Yeah.
When I carry my Nighthawk is like this level. It's supposed to be a 4-pound trigger, and it came out closer to 3 once the build was done.
Yeah.
And it shoots like a dream. It's the best shooting pistol I have, which is why I carry it.
Yeah.
And that it took me a while to decide that, hey, yeah, I'm okay carrying this trigger because I know I've got the grip safety to use as a striker control device. And I'll train with it enough that, hey, I can use this 3-pound trigger without sending around into the ether doing some stupid bullshit.
Breaking news.
Yeah, and that was...
I don't have bracket tape on my safety anymore.
Yeah, so kind of getting back to what I was saying, where I said I may or may not hurt some feelings, is, in my opinion, right, the 1911 and or 2011 platform, right? Because that's what it is at the end of the day. They all work the same. One just holds more bullets than the other. In my opinion, if you're seriously using it to carry for protection of your life or whatever the case may be, it's an expert platform. You got to be able to understand that your grip and all that other stuff is going to have to change a little bit in order to defeat that grip safety the proper way, right? You have to manipulate a safety simultaneously from your draw stroke in order for that gun to be ready to shoot when you're ready to use it. And you're dealing with a lighter trigger that's going to take more discipline than, say, a Glock, right? So I 100% believe your shit needs to be wired tight, and it's an expert platform. If you don't have the confidence carrying it, it doesn't matter to me what the poundage is on a trigger. I mean, the DVCP and my Staccato 2019 Staccato P have 2.5-pound triggers in them, but they all are set up the same way, where I know as soon as I touch it, I'm on the wall, and I know how much further until the break. And it doesn't matter which 2011 of mine, they're all pretty much set up the same for me. And I don't care if it's a 2.5-pound trigger or a 4-pound trigger. I know when it's going to go off, and I understand my manipulation with that gun is 100% spot on. So that's why I kind of say it's a little bit of an expert's platform if you're serious about it. Because even we make fun of them. You see it all the time. How many people, they go to pull out a 2011 or 1911 and they're new to the platform, and they go to pull the trigger and it doesn't do shit because, oh, guess what? There's a safety on this gun and you have to manipulate that thing, right? So if your shit's not wired tight and you're not focused on that platform, it's going to get you killed. Right?
First time.
If you actually had to use it.
I was telling these guys when I first got mine and I was shooting it happened way more than I was comfortable with. And it just takes repetition, man.
It does. Like I said, it's
shooting is a very perishable skill, and it amplifies exponentially when you move over to 2011. At least,
well, there's the shooting side of things, and then there's the actual weapons manipulation side of things. So it's just there's a lot going on when you're messing with the 2011, man. So it's if a lot of you guys are carrying one, I hope that because kind of like me, I exclusively pretty much just shoot them, right? I'm not one of the guys. I have 4 of them, and I do have a couple of Glocks and some CZs and shit, and it's mainly just for product for our shop. But primarily, if I'm shooting a pistol, it's a 2011, and I'm pretty much, for the most part, for now, married to the platform, just to master as much as possible, because that's the gun that I shoot the best with.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to carrying them, self-defense.
Yeah, yep.
Just for self-defense, because I think the way you win a gunfight hasn't changed since the invention of gunpowder. Right? He who puts
No.
he who puts the most holes in the other person's body and shuts down their central nervous system and puts them on the floor is the guy that wins. Right? You're not gonna
the way that we've been fighting as humans really hasn't changed much.
So carrying the platform that gives you best ability to do that for you shot up is the one that you should be carrying.
Absolutely. I mean, it's as cliche as it sounds, but it's definitely a real thing. It's like fear a man with one gun, right? Because it's just he knows that gun in and out. Now, there's nothing wrong, and I'm a very big firm believer of I called it for the longest time, weapons craft, being able to pick up anything and use it and understanding how it works. But you're definitely always going to be having one platform that you use the best and understand more, right? So it's like, as far as us being shooters and hobbyists and collectors and stuff, I get that. But you want to get into the nitty gritty of either performance shooting, competition, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of those guys aren't jumping around from platform to platform. They're just working with one platform the whole time, and they're getting extremely good at using it.
Yeah, and that's that should be everyone's goal.
Yeah,
like you see a lot of guys carrying Glock 43s, and then they're out at the range, and all they're shooting is their Glock 17 or 19, and it's like,
right,
what you doing there, dude?
Well, I mean, the other thing too is, I mean, I'm trying to do it a lot more, but just shooting from concealment more consistently.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of it. I do it all the time, but we go to the range, I'm strapping on a OWB range belt when in reality, if we're starting to talk about, the reality of the fact is we're all carrying concealed for the most part, unless, you're LEO or military, whatever the case may be. But that's what, and I've tried to do a lot more of that this year, is just shooting from concealment.
And where do you see platform moving now? We've gotten red dots on handguns are a thing. It's not just some. Remember when people were like, "Oh, this is going to die off" and whatever. No, it's not the future. It's now. We have handgun. We have red dots, lights, starting to do porting and comping is coming back and keeping them flat. Where do you see it going next? Is it going to be the ammo, and we're going to get new cartridges in, or?
I mean, that's kind of ammo. Like ammos and cartridges are not something new. I mean, would they come out with that new 30, whatever the fuck it was, 30 carry or something?
5/16. 5/16 carry.
What's that?
It's actually a .3125 diameter bullet, so I just call it 5/16 carry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I mean, these weird Wildcat cartridges, I mean, that's what a 380 was back in the day, and same with the 40 Smith & Wesson. I mean, they were, neuter, 380s, very, very similar as far as size as projectile is concerned to a 9mm, just very, very, just slightly smaller, right? And then a 40 cal is a neutered 10mm, which, at the end of the day, 10mm fucks, changed my mind.
No lie detected.
Yeah. So I mean, but the byproduct of 10mm is don't be a pussy. But that motherfucker will rock your world if you're not ready for it. As far as recoil, as far as technology on pistols, man, unless they start coming out with laser guns, I don't see much changing anytime soon. I think red dots were the biggest push as far as being accepted.
Yeah.
Right? Which is weird to me. But again, also at the same time, back in the day, the technology wasn't there to back the theory up. Because red dots on rifles were kind of the same thing with rifles, right? It's like, oh, we've put these damn things on a rifle. We don't need that. And then started to realize, no, these are actually worth a shit, and the technology is there to back its hard use, right? Because every time a product comes out, everyone's like, well, is it duty rated? Well, what does that even mean, right? So, I mean, duty rated for military, law enforcement, whatever the case may be, because obviously those conditions are more severe than probably what we as civilians are ever going to encounter. So if it can survive that, then yeah, it's good shit, right? So red dot technology for pistols wasn't quite there yet, and then it did, and then now it's pretty much like if you're not shooting a red dot now, you're actually kind of getting made fun of.
Yeah, which I think is cool.
So
I'm all for.
I feel
I'm
that.
all for constructive bullying. I think it.
yeah, well, I mean, it's a better way. I mean, the reality is, man, is humans don't. When it comes to like, again, we kind of talked like you were saying is, you know, the gunfights haven't changed as far as the outcome of what what the outcome that you want, right?
Yeah.
The first person to put enough holes in someone and drop them is the winner. Well, the one thing that has definitely changed when it comes to fighting with, projectile weapons. You think about back in the day when people were throwing spears and fucking arrows and shit. There was no iron sights on those things.
Oh.
They were instinctively shooting bows and throwing spears and all that shit. So the red dot brings us back to that way of fighting, right? Because now, you get down that weird rabbit hole of the human eye. The human eye can't focus on all that shit.
Oh.
So the red dot gets rid of all that.
Never thought of it like that.
You just put it in my mind, a bunch of cavemen fighting with flat top ARs. I think that would be just hilarious.
There you go. I mean, but it's true, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it, sights themselves, iron sights themselves on a pistol is not necessarily the best way to do things when it comes to gunfighting, right? The thing that everyone really fantasizes about nowadays. But that being said, when it comes to pistols, man, until they start fucking giving us laser guns, I don't know what else you could really do. As far as just better technology with red dots, unless they come out with some like heads-up display glasses and shit to Bluetooth to a pistol or something. I don't know.
Fucking thermal Trigicon RMRs.
Right.
That would be dope.
Yeah, something. Yeah. It's hard telling what's going to happen, but kind of like you said, as far as firearms technology is concerned, they all shoot bullets. And as far as caliber is concerned, I don't know. We all have our beliefs. I'm assuming most people in here are 9mm guys.
I'm the outlier there.
You a 40 cal guy? 45?
I'm a 45 guy.
God's caliber?
My stopping power.
Brother.
My stopping power.
230.
2 World Wars.
Hey, 45 ACP is it works,
Laps.
right?
I don't think.
In my defense, I carry 230 grain gold dots, and I lovingly call them flying ashtrays.
Yeah,
because that's essentially what it is. My view on that is the same bullet development that made 9mm great has also went into my 45 as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing. I don't get too wrapped around the axle when it comes to bullets, right? You carry what you want to carry, and you use what you think you can effectively use the most of. It's where I have a problem with it is if you say, 45 is the shit, but you can't fucking hit anything with it, then it's kind of makes you look like an ass.
Yeah.
It's at the end of the day, it's like you're trying to put holes in people. So yeah, a bigger bullet's going to do a better job as far as putting bigger holes in people. My concern is, can you put those holes in people?
It's a very
right, because I carry, like I said, I carry a lot of the time, dude. I'm carrying 10 rounds of 9mm, and I personally am okay with that.
Yeah.
So it's subjective. Honestly, my next carry pistol that I want to build is I want to get another C2. I want to Genghis comp it, and then I want to go get a 38 Super Barrel. And Genghis comp that and carry a Genghis comp 38 Super.
Now you're talking my language.
Yeah, 38 Super really fucks.
me and my boomer shooters here, you start talking 38 Super and I'm gonna appear back in Ohio just to see what this thing is like.
Somewhere Paul Harrell just perked up.
38 Super Comp is good shit, man. And the thing is staccatos are ready and willing to be retrofitted to 38 Super right now.
It's sick.
It's just a barrel swap.
Speaking of
I was gonna say
staccato,
it's just a barrel swap.
speaking of staccato, when you first started chopping up these barrels and these slides, doing the chunk port initially, did they give you any shit? Like, hey, don't fuck with our guns, kid, or was it?
So funny story. We kind of met Staccato for the first time last year, and they were loving what we were doing. So it's kind of split. Actually, I can't say that 100% with certainty. There's dudes over there that like what we're doing, and there's dudes over there that don't like what we're doing. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of one of those. This is America, and honestly, like I'm doing you a favor because we've literally had plenty of people contact us and say, I bought a Staccato just because of the shit that you're doing. And we're like, cool.
I did that.
Cool, man. So, we haven't really been pee-pee slapped by them, but we've met some of their people and they like what we do, but they're more like-minded, and understand what we're doing.
I think must be doing something right because they brought compensators back.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna be real. That ice comp is pretty cool.
Yeah.
On a P, it's a little ridiculous. I mean, fuck that gun's got to be the size of an XL at that point. Now the C2 with the ice comp looks pretty nice. I do like it.
When you, I don't know how to word this correctly. You first did the chunk port. Was there an aha moment? Like when did it like click? You're like, holy shit, this is fucking awesome.
Well, so it was one of those. It was one of those. I'm gonna do this, and I don't give a shit what anyone thinks. It was not necessarily. First, it was not necessarily intended to go to market. It was just one of those. I want to try this, and I don't give a shit what happens. And we did it, and it was just like kind of. Honestly, I didn't know what to expect on the first one because. It's hard to tell what exactly is going to happen, no matter how much you think you know. You're not gonna know until you do it. And when I did it, again, I kind of have a tendency to do this as I kind of break the internet for a little bit. And there was definitely one of those like, oh, that's amazing, or what the fuck is wrong with you people, right? So I did it for me personally first, right? And I ran the shit out of that gun, and I still have it today. It's not going anywhere. I don't plan on selling it, and it's still in its original form as far as when we cut the first day we cut it. It's still the same. And I was just like, okay, this is cool. And then I started getting a lot of my buddies. They were like, man, that's pretty cool, man. I was like, yeah. I want to run it some more and make sure everything's good before I say, yeah, we can do this. And that's kind of, where it was like, after I got comfortable with the fact that I ran, X amount of rounds through it, without any issues, I was like, okay, cool. I guess we can bring this to market. And it kind of just exploded from there. So, it's hard to say it's hard to like sit down and say, yeah, I was the first one to do that because that style of porting is not new. I'm trying to remember the company. They used to be, it's kind of funny. I think they were called Weapon Armament Systems. So they had like the War Comp on the M&P. And that was however long ago. And I think they sold the rights to Radiant with that War Comp. And that's kind of where that went. So, or Radiant bought out Weapon Armament. I don't know. So that style of porting isn't anything new, but I almost positive we're the first ones to do it on a Staccato. And I really haven't seen many other people attempting it lately. So
Does it surprise you that no one else has tried it?
You know, I guess I should retract the way I said that. There's no one that I know of doing it as a product for people. I've definitely seen companies that shall not be named do similar things.
I got you.
And I think they were just we kind of reached out to them a little bit because we are, without trying to be too much of a dick about it, we are a little bit protective of that style of porting on the staccatos because we don't want people it's one thing to rip off a design, it's another one to try to re-engineer one, right? But there was a couple of them that were just straight copies, and we were like, "Yo, man,
come on now,
have a little bit of integrity. Like, I can't stop you, but like, yo, check this out, right?" But I don't know, man. Yeah, I mean, there's really only 3 companies that I know of really actively putting ports onto staccatos.
I can think of you and Vulcan. Who's the third one?
Vulcan, Mac Defense.
Gotcha.
It also does some porting, but he's also I think he's only a single man outfit, so his lead times are a little on the hefty side right now. But he was definitely one of the guys putting some ports on 2011s too. But yeah, Vulcan, Jeremy over at Vulcan's another good guy. And then us, we have a couple of different porting packages as well. Well, we only have one other porting package for the staccatos, and that's our Lucky Sevens.
Speaking of, if anyone's listening to this and doesn't have a staccato but wants porting, you'll do it to Glocks, MNPs, CZs, right? Or what will you do a chunk port or a similar porting on?
So, as of right now, the only thing that the Genghis comp is only specific to the staccato, right? And then the chunk port design has been proved and tested on Glocks, MMPs, Sig 320s, and Walther PDPs, right? And then our Lucky Sevens packages, which was honestly our first ever porting package that I developed when I was working for Cutter Machine Works, is kind of a universal porting package for a lot of other handguns that may or may not be able to accept a chunk port, right? Because there's definitely some considerations and cutoff points when it comes to certain things. So Lucky Sevens, pretty much we're pretty much been able to put that on anything and get very, very good results with.
Oh yeah.
So was there was there a lot of trial and error when you would develop these ports, or did you kind of just do some real nerd stuff and just one and done it?
So I mean, there's a couple of ways you can go about it. Mine was purely based off of the experiences I had in the competition world, and what I've seen out there that really worked, right? There's definitely, like, Jeremy over at Vulcan's one of those guys who nerds out on it, and he really only offers the stack porting, which I understand. But kind of based off of what I know, and his logic is based off of a completely different overall design as far as the way that he does his ports, right? So his porting is a poppet hole style port where it's trying to escape a machined hole, right? Versus our porting is all open, right? That's the consideration to having the gases being able to actually escape the slide before it gets covered up. So we just don't go down that road, and we have windows that accommodate those ports.
Yeah.
So then at that point, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, trial and error kind of thing, right? Just based off of what we saw on the market and what we, taking data and what we know works, it was kind of, the Lucky Sevens was kind of a one and done shot as far as when we first did it. And then we updated the overall profile and changed window designs based off of what we were feeling and seeing over the last couple of years of having those ports in our arsenal and out in the real world. So those kind of reached their second peak as far as the oval shaped porting, and then the type of windows going along with those ports to maximize their performance. And then also just understanding, porting really needs to be as furthest away from the breach as humanly possible. And, not necessarily, 10 ports versus 7, depending on how they're spaced out, is not really going to help you, right? My 7 ports further up the front of the barrel is probably going to work better than your 10 across the whole barrel. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's just understanding what you're trying to achieve with them. It's not something that you really have to think too hard about. I think a lot of people try to make it seem a little bit harder than what it really needs to be. The overall end game is we're directing gas to minimize recoil, right? So you can only do that so much until the gun starts to not function. So, I mean, we've definitely gone ham on some shit, and didn't know what the outcome was going to be, and it ended up working. But we understand, like, one, branding. Lucky Sevens, really cool name. I'm a fucking nerd, so like Final Fantasy VII was the inspiration for the name of that, not really what other people might think. And we can get away with a lot with just the 7 ports. We can put, like I said, we can put them on pretty much anything, and they're going to perform extremely well.
And the one last question I did get is someone wanted to know, what are your thoughts on porting? They said the chunk port by name, smaller carry guns. They said a Glock 48.
On a fort, we've done a lot of 48s. It's great. But, we have, again, we get this, we do a lot of consulting with people a lot that just, they have serious questions like, what porting package should I get? Which one actually feels flatter or shoots flatter? And, there's it's a hard question to answer sometimes for people. But I will say, in my opinion, that when it comes to the shorter barreled slimline guns, the Lucky Sevens performs better. Just because of the overall snappy nature of those pistols in general. The more progressive porting is going to be a little more conducive to that platform. For say compensator style port. And again, the shorter guns, we're worried about barrel length again, so it's kind of like the cutoff for the chunk port for us is if it's under 4 inches, we kind of don't want to mess with it, but we've been kind of going back to the drawing board with a similar style that doesn't require back boring.
Oh, that's fucking cool.
Yeah, so I mean, I have a, I'll say I have a Hellcat Pro that we did that style of port on that I'm taking out tomorrow to test all the stuff with it, and be able to bring that style of port back to the smaller guns, because the chunk port is just too gnarly for those small short barreled guns. So, but like I said, like the Lucky Sevens on those smaller guns are definitely, I think, a better option than the chunk port. It's really hard to like sway people one direction or over the other when it comes to your own products, because it's like, I don't know you, right? So it's, do you like compensators better or do you like ports better? Because that's kind of the deciding factor when it comes to how flat they shoot. In my opinion, they both shoot about the same flatness, right? As far as the way that they're directing gas, but the overall perceptive recoil impulse between the two are completely different. So it's like, Do you want something a little bit more like the way I kind of explain it is the chunk port is like a direct impingement AR, and the Lucky Sevens is like a piston driven AR.
Recoil impulse.
Yeah, like the recoil impulse on a piston gun is a little bit smoother, and a carbine length, I would say, like carbine length gun compared to the two, a little bit punchier, but it's not bad. Piston gun, a little bit smoother. Is how I kind of tell people that's kind of how you can expect it. The chunk port's just so it's a single port doing one thing, and the Lucky Sevens are 7 progressive small ports doing 7 separate things in an instant, right? It's just so fast you can't really tell, but as that bullet's leaving, gas is following it. So you got 7 separate ports activating instead of 1. So obviously that felt recoil is going to be completely different.
All right. So chunk port drops gas at the end of it like that, like it's a hard push, and the Lucky number 7 is kind of a da as it goes.
Right. Yep. That's pretty much exactly how it works. So, I guess if the question is porting on pistols, yes or no, I think yes.
Yeah. We had
it's worth a performance boost in my opinion. As long as you're in it, as long as you're getting it done by a company that knows what they're doing and they've proven their product, then why not, right? Like it's, like I said, there is a point of no return, but I think a lot of people that are doing a professional job understand that, and they edge on the side of caution more than anything, right? So that's why it's like we do things a little bit different. Well, I wouldn't say we, like, just in general, but like the way that we do things when it comes to product development is we take the idea, we make it come to life, and then we spend the money and the time to actually run the living piss out of them to see what's going to happen.
wish Sig would do that.
Yeah, so I mean, when the Genghis comp and the retrofit were in development, every single one of them got a 5,000 round diet within a 2-month span, on top of a 500 round burn down of plus P. So it got its ass handed to it very quickly to see what was going to happen. And that's kind of how we do things as far as testing the product and everything else before we release them.
Got one last question before we wrap this up. What do you see as the next progression of like the 1911 platform? So we had the 1911, then we got the 2011. Do you see like a 3011 or something, off the walls?
3011, brother. I don't. The one thing that would be really cool to see would be a striker fired 2011 of some sort that isn't a Hudson. So I mean, I had does anybody know what the Hudson 9 was?
Yeah, dude, that thing was cool until it wasn't.
Yeah, so I mean,
I'll admit I actually own one and love the ever-living fuck out of it.
I owned one too. I thought it was very innovative. I'm all into the innovation side of things. That was the first ever. I never really got into it as far as how the fucking thing worked. But it was a 1911 style trigger pull / gun, minus the fact that the recoil assembly was a little ridiculous. I understood what they were trying to do, but I don't think they needed to do it. So it'd be cool to see like a striker fired gun with all the modern safeties into a 2011 for somehow.
Yeah.
But that also being said, I don't really think it's needed. I don't know what else you could really do to the platform. It's modular, you know. It's got you know, different grip lengths, different magazine capacities, aluminum, steel, different sizes. Like you said, one of you guys carrying a Nighthawk, so it's just like there's the evolution of the platform is just going to be who can build the nicest one, I guess, at that point. Because it's when you think about 1911s or 2011s, as far as the platform, you can go from a you know, super cheap Rock Island Armory gun made in the Philippines that rattle to death and but still kind of work, to you know, a hand fitted 1911 from some mom and pop boutique shop that costs you 20 grand, but every single piece of that pistol is hand fitted and put together in such a way that it's just like you can appreciate that. So I don't really know if there's anything else other than you spending the extra cheddar for a gun that's just bonkers when it comes to the fit and finish. All of you guys that have a 2011 know that how they shoot, and that's not anything. That's not just because it's staccato. That's, you know, as much as people make fun of them, that's the 1911 design in general. They just shoot great, right? It just depends on who built it. Because there's been some, like I said, you shoot a Rock Island Armory 1911 next to even a, you know, you shoot a Rock Island like 1911, not a 2011, but a 1911 next to a Nighthawk 1911, and you're gonna just be like, yeah, dude, there's major difference, but it's the same fucking gun, right? So at the end of the day, it's just gonna be like who can build the better one. I think there's really not much else you can change other than trying to make another Hudson that works. So
We really appreciate you coming on, Vinny. People want to find you if they haven't. The best way to reach out, plug yourself.
Monsoon _tactical on IGs are the main page that I run. Monsoon _ bactical is the backup page, but Zach, my business partner Zach, runs that one. So that's kind of two outlets as far as the socials to find us. But honestly, man, like if you're trying to directly reach out to us, definitely give us a call. Or IG can get really messy, and as far as DMs are concerned. So I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to try to navigate Instagram and talk to people on it as much as I want to. But yeah, man, that's pretty much it. I appreciate you guys for having me on and talking.
Oh, we loved it, dude. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you.
Yeah, this is an interesting interesting setup. I've done a couple podcasts along with kind of our own podcast that we haven't dropped yet. So having a Discord chat like this is interesting. I don't know how many people are in here and all that stuff, but it's pretty cool to be able to talk to more than just one or two people.
Yeah, we appreciate it, dude. Thank you so much for coming on. Guys, this has been the Clone and Correct podcast. Thank you for listening. Catch you next time. Goodbye.